Good evening, everyone. My name is Amelia Acosta-Powell. I serve as the Associate Artistic Director here at the Repertory Theater of St. Louis. I'm so excited for another episode of Flippin The Script. Tonight, I'm here with the Rep's Sound Supervisor, Rusty Wandall. Hi, Rusty.
Hey,
So excited to have you tonight. How's it going?
that's going well. It's so great to be here.
Well, I have said your name and your position, but I would love to just start with asking you to introduce yourself. Tell us your role at the Rep, how long you've been with the company, and maybe a fun fact that we might not know about you.
I have been with the Rep for 13 years now. It seems crazy moving here and had no idea that I would ever be here this long, but St. Louis is amazing. And I was the resident sound designer for 11 years of that, and then, or 11 or 12 years, and then the past 2 years I've been the sound supervisor, and really loving making sure that everything on the Rep stage gets up sound wise, and making sure that everybody can hear everything that they need to. And interesting fact about me, I've been on Extreme Makeover Home Edition. I've done 3 of their builds back in the original thing. So the original show with Ty and everything.
That is such a fun fact. Wait, what does that mean? You've done their builds?
I just went and volunteered and did random things on 2 of the ones in Kansas City, and then actually the one that was in Shrewsbury in 2008, 2009. So within a month of moving here. Yeah, I just moved. And then actually my brother-in-law used to work on the show, but I met him after I had done all those. So, and there's a couple of times you can see me a couple of times on one of the episodes. So sort of fun.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Well, we are going to find links to those episodes and put them in the comments so people can check them out after. That's so fun. Wait, also, is this me learning that the actual labor on the show is volunteers?
There are volunteers, but then most of like the electricians and the painters and everything you're helping, but most of the skilled jobs are definitely contractors. That everything, nobody wants me building their house for them. So
okay, gotcha. That's good to know, because I was immediately thinking like I will 100% volunteer to do this, but I have no skills necessary.
Yeah, but it's like move this up here or take all this wood and put it over there or something like that. They just need bodies. So, but it was super fun. So,
wow. All right. So far, you're winning on the fun facts. So, future guests of Flippin the Script, you better level it up. I'm sorry, I got deeply sucked into that because that was amazing. I want to highlight, you have many points of connection. You've been the Rep's resident sound designer, you're the sound supervisor, and then the Rep, many folks know, the Rep is housed at Webster University, where you also teach sound. So you have many angles.
I do, and I work with both and I also help out with opera, and I've also worked with the Shakespeare Festival and everything. I've really, again, come to love St. Louis and a lot of different companies. So
that's great. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about St. Louis. I feel like the community has a lot of interplay, and that there's not necessarily lines of like this, you can only choose to either be here or here. There's actually a lot of shared resources.
Yeah, there's total shared resources, which is really great. So
yeah, awesome. Well, let's start anyway. We'll talk about all these aspects, but let's start anyway with sound supervisor. What does being a sound supervisor entail? Like, what's your, if you think of a kind of a traditional show, which of course hasn't been what we've been doing for the past year, but the shows that people are familiar with, if they come to see a play or a musical at the Rep, what has your process been from the inception of that through when they're seeing the performance?
I am, as the sound supervisor, I work with the sound designer and the rest of the rest of the production team to make sure that the sound designer's vision and the director's vision and everybody's vision for the show is implemented. That there's so many different aspects to it. If there's rental gear, making sure all of that gets here. Making sure that when a sound designer who has never been in our building can say, hey, I want to put a speaker here, and you can't, like for instance, in the studio theater, the big concrete beams that on a drawing look like a perfect place to put a speaker or a light, but we can't do that. Like that's the one only place. So I really, in the start of the process, I really walk the designers through, okay, this is kind of what we can do. This is what we can't do. Obviously keeping us within budget and working those things out. But really just trying to be a resource to our incoming guests, because again, I want the incoming designers to feel as welcome as possible, so they can do their job well. My job is to make sure that the designers and everybody can do their job. I also need to make sure that the intercom system is working and is operational, so the rest of the production team can do that, and even the hearing assist system, so that can all be working. And then also working with our sound engineers, making sure they have all the things that they need, and and if something breaks when they're in the middle of running the show or running tech, I can then go and like fix that problem and put out fires and things like that. So basically anything in charge of sound wise, anything the audience is hearing, I'm touching in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, absolutely. And how does that process kind of range? Like the rep does a lot of different kinds of work. So for example, a large chorus musical down to like a studio theater production or something, how different is your process?
It's really it's show dependent, like how big it is. Like clearly like a musical, like with a band that we're figuring out band things and making sure that how all that is run, and that the musicians have all their video stuff set up, and all the wireless microphones that we have to do. In a large cast musical, that's like the one level of like the highest level of things that we're doing. But also like on the main stage, if we're just doing a straight play, most of the sound system is already installed. It's ready to go. It's there, and we don't change a whole lot. We just add things. We add speakers backstage. We add overhead speakers if they need. We put speakers in radios or TVs as needed. But then downstairs, the system is totally flexible, and really the set. I mean, as you all have seen throughout the years, the set goes in every which way, so we can't have an installed sound system. So it's just a different level of setting things up, because like there's really a blank canvas every time a studio theater show happens, which is exciting. But then it also is like, okay, well, where does lights need to be? Where does sound need to be? Because like putting a light right in front of a speaker isn't going to work, or putting a speaker right in the path of the light isn't going to work, and there's really a tight space. So just working with all the different departments to make sure that everything works. But there's, again, just depending, again, just wherever it is the level of thing. But there are some straight plays that is very, very straightforward, and everything's just set up. Most of it's all set up. We're just adding a couple of speakers, all the way to renting a huge amount of gear in and making sure that's all gets sent back correctly and everything.
Yeah. Do you have any favorites over the last 13 years? Favorite shows you've worked on at the Rep?
Christmas Story. I think I really love, because I grew up watching that show, and in my family, it's not Christmas without a Christmas Story. So being able to work on that. The Marvelous Wonderettes was the kitschy musical that was really fun. Play That Goes Wrong is one of my favorites. I was actually really disappointed, because also one of my favorites all-time musicals is Little Shop of Horrors. So I was really excited when the Rep was gonna have that on the season, and then obviously COVID happened. But so I think those are a couple. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. What about as a designer? Do you have favorite designs?
I have liked again. A Christmas Story was one of the ones that I was the designer for. A bunch of the Shakespeare shows. We did Macbeth years and years ago. That was a really fun show. And then also Winter's Tale at the Shakespeare Festival. And the reason why that is as most of you know, the Shakespeare Glen is really close to the zoo, and the first time we played the polar bear roaring, we played it through the sound system, and then a second later, one of the polar bears responded back, and I
Oh
was
my
like, okay, I can
gosh.
retire now. I'm ready. Like I have had an animal from the zoo respond to a sound cue that I played, so it was super fun. So
That's amazing. Yeah, totally. You've been in direct conversation with the polar bears.
I know
Hard to beat that.
it is.
Well, as theater makers, we love a good story. So I want to ask about your origin story in theater. How did you get into it? Were you starring in musicals as a child? And how did you go from however you first fell in love with theater to becoming a professional theater artist?
That's a great question. I love it because it's so fun. I started like in high school. We had one musical a year in high school, and I was in them because I was in choir. I was male, and I had a pulse. Those were the requirements for me for my high school theater program to be in there. So I was in all the musicals. Again, you really don't want me. I always say that I stay on the other side of microphones for a reason, a very good reason. But I enjoyed it and I enjoyed theater. But I had always worked and I'd seen people working up in the catwalks and things and really was just curious at some point, like, hey, what is going on? Like, what are they doing? And I just wanted to go up where not many people go. And I happened to mention it in class one day, and the student who saw all the lights for the show when I was a sophomore said, hey, I'll take you up there and I'll show you what I do. He graduated. I then turned into the lighting expert in my school, did that, then eventually really got into sound, and then went to college for computer science. Didn't have any like real thought about doing theater professionally at all. But then at the end of orientation, somebody just asked, like, hey, after a writing program, they said, if you have any other questions about anything random in general, just ask. And I said, well, who does all the tech theater stuff? And then it turns out that she said, well, I do. And again, my undergrad was a small thing. And the person that I met then went off to the Yale School of Drama to get her MFA in technical direction and stuff like that. Now, so I just immediately got in there, and then halfway through realized I didn't want to sit behind a computer screen and code all day, and wanted to do this for a living. And then went off to got as much professional experience as I could, and went off to graduate school, and the rest is history, as they say.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like every single guest we've had so far has said, and then I went to college and I tried to do something else.
Yeah.
And then I got sucked back in.
Oh yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, like, with audio turning everything and really the whole entertainment industry going up to computers now, that computer science knowledge that I have is turning out to be really helpful. Like, I'm starting to code again in just different things, and remembering, like, okay, oh, and I've got like PTSD coming back to me, like, okay, this is why I did not like this, but it's in a contained environment. It's like, okay, and this is something I love to do, so I'm going to figure out how to get this thing to work. But I love, like, getting one piece of equipment to talk to another, trigger another. So, and again, that all goes back. So it's been a wild, weird ride that is just definitely all followed in the same path. So.
Yeah. Well, that's the best thing about theater to me too, is that anything ends up relating. I mean, computer, like coding, especially now for sure, or any computer science, super, super useful in almost any field. Because we're all living through computers all the time now. But I feel like, whatever you studied, it ends up incorporating, whether it's, you study anthropology and then that relates to the dramaturgy of plays, or like in my case, I studied linguistics, and of course our plays are largely language based. So you can incorporate anything into a theater career.
Absolutely.
What do you tell your students in terms of like all the different things at their disposal to learn, or what advice do you give them about starting their careers?
I try to tell them to continue to learn as much as you can. Talk to as many people as possible. Like the theater world is very small, and the sound world within theater is even smaller. So like there's not a whole lot of degrees of separation between anybody, and most of us in the professional sound theater community are really, really interested in talking to students and sharing all of our knowledge. I mean, again, and all of us, there's always somebody more smarter than what we are, and that has knowledge in some area more than what we do. So just continuing, never stop learning. Like I'm always learning and trying to figure out new things, and really technology wise, we have to do it because the things that we learned when I was in school are obsolete at this point. But then also, always want my students to find their own design. Like I don't want to have them set things up and do things and design things exactly the way that I would do it, because that's just boring, and that's not them being their own unique artist and designer. Um, so I want them to be able to figure out what really excites them, and there's the amount of stuff that you can do within the theater world with a theater degree is really exciting, and so there's, again, you can go into the themed entertainment, you can go into the corporate world, you can go into theater, you can go into live sound concerts and things like that. I've seen it all. So
yeah, they're very lucky to have you. And also to have, your, not only your individual wisdom, but you, through, the connection between Webster and the rep, you bring in all the designers we work with, or lots of them anyway, to speak to students too, which I think is such a cool opportunity because, people from all over the country are coming to work with us who have really different approaches and knowledge bases as well.
Oh, absolutely. The rep sound designers have been incredibly gracious. I think the only times that they haven't come and talked to us, if like the scheduling just doesn't work out and the way that they're there, like designers that are here when students aren't. But they've been incredibly gracious and given them. And again, it's a different perspective. I mean, all these people, we all have different ways that we do it. We all have different things. We all know different people. So it's been really a great thing. And actually, one of the things with COVID and all this video chatting and Zooming that we can do now as second nature is that all these people that are in New York or California or Chicago or anywhere across the world, we can meet with them now in ways that I wouldn't even thought of. That we can meet with manufacturers and tech support people, and to show us how to do things in ways that are, before COVID, we wouldn't have been able to we wouldn't have dreamt like, oh wow, I can't have that. That's too much.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and hopefully something that can stick around too, because even when everything's back in person and for the most part all the learning and teaching is happening in the room, like you could totally still Zoom in some incredible expert from wherever in the world. Now that we've proven to ourselves it works.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm an extrovert and I love being with people and I love being in person and being able to like really interact with them face to face. But in the midst of that, there's also the ability to have people that would normally, it's better to have something rather than nothing. So yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. Also, that's making me think, this was not on your pre-approved questions list, but you talking about that was just making me think about how prevalent sound and audio has become this year. We've seen a lot of theaters produce radio plays. We've seen, even for plays that do have a video or virtual component. Personally, I've learned a lot about the amount of, not only do you need a sound designer, but the kind of engineering that's required and the pre-production to make sure what's captured is good audio and everything. I'm just curious, what you see as the unique opportunities of audio and sound that might have been highlighted during this time, or where you think that's going for future theater.
Well, I think the idea of people doing it themselves isn't new. Like a lot of musicians with GarageBand coming with every Mac and all these free programs, I think that was happening before COVID. But now, like recording things in your house or in your basement, or even outside and doing things is that's what we've had to do to survive and do things. And while it isn't necessarily the preferred work method, people have found some really interesting ways to do it. So I think I think some of that will stick around. I hope that eventually we're going to get back to the things, because again, everybody, just because you have the software, you also have to know how to use it and do it well. And I think that's where the training and things still come in, and where expertise still comes in. But I think the ability and people thinking outside the box, I think it's been an interesting year to figure out, okay, how can we actually do this? What can we or can't we do to make this happen, and in unique ways on shoestring budgets a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see what carries over, what the learnings are. And I'm a big podcast listener, so the kind of like resurgence of the audio play has been up my alley, I guess.
Absolutely.
I always ask folks, and I'm fascinated by the responses because they're all over the place. If you had the opportunity to change one thing about our industry, like magically overnight, what would you change?
I think I would change the ability and how hard it is for families, and I think that there is a real push to make it more humane on everybody. We have really long, demanding hours, and the time that everybody else wants to go out and see a play is not at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. So as far as like missing time with family and stuff like that, and having that ability to still be with them. But I think the rep and many other nationally, it's a bigger conversation that a lot of people are having, as far as like, how do we have kids? How do we encourage people to have families, but still and have a holistic person, but then also still do the thing that we love, because we still love to do it, but we also love our families. And also just making it more affordable. I think so a lot of like the virtual things have been really good, because it isn't a whole lot of money, but it's very expensive to produce as well. So it's a real balance there. But figuring out that affordability piece for the audience, so we can get as many people in the doors, and as wide an audience as we possibly can, but then also the ability to really have that balance between having a family and being there for them, and being at like soccer games and baseball games, but also still doing an excellent job doing what we all love to do. So
I fully support both of those changes. One of my favorite things in terms of the reps family is the beautiful and sweet friendship. You have a kid, and our props manager has a kid, and our associate technical director, and like that friendship between the our lead technicians' children, I just think is the sweetest. And every time that they're in a tech or, a build day or whatever, I'm so happy.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, my little guy Corey loves to come to the theater, and even my students. Like, there was one time that I was going to bring him, and then he asked, like, "Are your students going to be there?" He said, "Oh, I don't want to come." And then he asked, "Well, are your students going to be there?" And I said, "Yes, okay, I'm there. I'm going to come." Or is Henry or Harrison going to be there? So, yeah, we have a lot of fun, and it's neat to see them all growing up together around. And they're all around the same age, within like 2 years of each other, which is really fun.
So sweet.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Emily is shouting out Harrison, Henry, and Corey in the chat.
Oh, there you go.
Beautiful. Well, I kind of already asked you this, but before we go into our lightning round, because I was referencing your students, but I do want to also ask you, what you would change is kind of like a question about the challenges in our field. So just to land on a upwards note of opportunity, what are your words of wisdom or advice for folks entering our field?
Just continue to be a sponge, learn. Like, don't be afraid to go up to people and ask them questions. If typically, if they're not busy, they love to talk to people. So like, I've gone up and to people even at the Fox or on Broadway or anything like that, and just asking them what they do. And if they're not busy, most of the time they're gonna like talk to you and you're like, I got a whole backstage tour for a group of my students at one point, just by asking questions and saying like, hey, yeah, and then they ask like, hey, who are you here with and everything, and I tell them, and they showed us around and stuff. So it's a really gracious community, and we want to give back. I mean, because again, none of us got to where we are without other people investing in us, and people are still even investing in me that are have more experience and different training opportunities. So anything that I can do to give back to other people and to give them the same opportunity to learn and grow that I have, I want to jump at that chance. So.
Absolutely. That's why the rep's so lucky to have you, Rusty.
Oh, I appreciate that.
We appreciate you. Yeah. And I'm particularly myself, I'm so grateful because I'm still very much learning, our theater, right? Because we're Hunter Sharif's team is one full season in, or almost full season in, and then a virtual season in. But I think still very much like getting rooted into St. Louis, into the rep. And those of you who have been here a long time have been so tremendously helpful and so welcoming. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Our pleasure.
Okay. You knew it was coming. We're going to head into our lightning round, fun facts in 60 seconds.
Okay.
I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock. I'm going to ask you a series of questions for you to answer as many as you can.
Fair enough.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What's your favorite pizza topping?
Gotta be ham and mushroom. Absolutely.
Okay. What's your favorite board game?
Ticket to Ride.
What's your favorite color?
Teal.
What's the last book you read?
All About Wolves from Corey's Chick-fil-A meal earlier today.
Nice. Who would play you in the movie?
My wife said Dan Levy from Schitt's Creek would be the perfect person. So
amazing. What is your favorite show to binge watch?
I'm a reality TV junkie, so if I'm going to be like honest, like the Below Deck kind of things from Bravo, or even like the Bachelor series. I'm part of Bachelor Nation. If you want that, it's kind of our guilty pleasure that we watch. So
yes, always be honest about that. Yeah. Favorite vacation spot?
Got to be Disney World.
Happiest place on earth, I've heard.
It is.
Excellent. Rusty, it's been such a pleasure having you on. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. It was really fun.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad. That's what we want.
Absolutely.
Our work is, too hard to not be also fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone who's joined us, whether you're watching us live or if you're watching this later. Flippin' the Script is an opportunity to get to know all of the fantastic artists who work behind the scenes at the Rep to bring you the theater that you love. We cannot wait to bring you the theater live again very soon. Until then, please join us again 2 weeks from today. We'll have another episode of Flippin' the Script. And if you are enjoying Flippin' the Script and or the Rep's other virtual programming, after Rusty and I leave the screen today, you'll see a text to give information come up on the screen. We'd be very grateful if you'd consider a donation. Thank you so much. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see you soon. Thank you, Rusty.